Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Unstuck Yourself podcast. I'm Vicky, and I'm here with Nikki. And we are on a mission to make you absolutely unstoppable by expanding your money, your mindset, and your energy. So, today we're going to talk about a topic that is just so prevalent in every single aspect of our lives, and that is artificial intelligence. But we're not going to teach you today how to use AI. We're not going to give you prompts. This is not that conversation. This is the conversation around the emotional toll as well as the financial toll of AI and what we're experiencing today. And it's really being prompted by what I'm seeing all around me in my world. So I will quickly share with you the story that is inspiring me to really have Nikki weigh in from an emotional, mental mindset perspective on this very topic. And I will tell you just some data and facts around what's happening. So, really quickly, last week, the February job numbers came out. And what we saw is that the economy had lost 92,000 jobs in February, where the economists were expecting 59,000 net new jobs. So there is a difference of about 160,000 in what was expected versus what really is taking place. And I want to share with you that I talked to a lot of different people. I talked to employment attorneys, I've talked to just people that work in technology, data scientists, and everyone is telling me the same story. And the story is that whereas in the past, it might have been the blue collar workers that were losing their jobs, they're seeing the loss such a rapid pace at which white collar workers are losing their jobs that it is absolutely taking a toll on them. So, what types of jobs? A QA engineers, software engineers, attorneys are even worried about AI. So everybody is across the board really worried about their ability to earn an income using their old skill set, the skill set that they invested into with their money, their time, their expertise, their experience. So before I share any more with you, I want to turn it over to you, Nikki. Tell me, what observations are you seeing in the world around you? And then let's unpack this both economically, but also the emotional and the mental toll that this whole situation is having on us as a society as a whole.
Well, I mean, there's so many pieces and parts to this. Um, there's a part that we didn't even touch on in your intro, the negative side from the aspect of human trafficking, fake nudes, harm to children. So that's another side that we need to touch on eventually. But I also work in the academic world. I teach as a professor. So AI in the school system is a big conversation. We don't necessarily embrace students using AI, but then again, some professors are. And so it's really a sticky place for the students as well, right? Because they're going into a time that they need to be very adapted to using AI. They need to understand how to use it, when to use it, the ethics behind using AI properly. So the school systems really need to get a better grip on how they're handling this. But I myself personally, in my day job, I've been using AI. I'm a novice at it, but for me, the AI is making me better. I'm using my brain, my intelligence, but it's helping me pull information faster and align it quicker. So I think there's definitely some pros and cons. So from an emotional standpoint, I understand that everybody's worried about losing their job. Well, we've been programmed to be, employees. We've been programmed to be workers for somebody else. So we are conditioned to have those golden handcuffs. And when I lost my job two times, one was kind of for spite. The guy jealous of me. And so he took my job and knew my contract. And that was like a slap in the face and scared the living hell out of me because I didn't have any benefits. I didn't have an income. And it was very shocking to me. But the sad part was he didn't need to do that to me because I was already looking for another job. I already knew it was time for me to move on, right? So then I go to the last job I lost. I knew I was going to lose it because it was a terminal position. I was working and running a grant, a $1 million grant, and I knew that there was an end date. Now, could they have renewed it? Not that particular funding stream, but they could have found other funds. They did not find enough. So I knew I was going to lose my job. I didn't like that job anyway. I like the people, I like the mission, but the job itself was not my best experience because I was way more experienced than the people I was working with, and they were always getting in my way and putting up roadblocks. It was aggravating. So I want to say to the people who are losing their jobs from AI, do you love your job? If you do, I'm very sorry for you. If you don't love your job, is this happening for you? Is this an opportunity for you to reinvent and recreate yourself? I was watching, probably because the system listens to us, right? It reads our text, it hears us talking. I was watching a YouTube video, probably because we've been talking about this. And I was watching a YouTube video that this lady in tech, she worked in payroll systems. She lost her job because of AI, but then she used AI to recreate herself. And now she's, owns a company. Does everybody want to be self-employed? No, you don't have to be. But what can you recreate yourself into being, into doing? Because I'm quite sure when the when things happen with the industrial age, people lost jobs, right? When we automated factory lines, I'm more concerned about the ethics behind the people pushing out the AI, right? Yes, it's going to suck for a lot of us losing jobs, but what else can we be doing? I'm more concerned about what's going to happen when these AI technologies get very smart. And if the person who created it was not an ethical, good person, how does that affect our society? Right now, the person who's building an AI streamlined process and procedure, they're helping society, right? Things. I don't understand the whole financial world like you do because that's not my realm. I'm an emotional person. I'm a caregiver, a healer. But what I do know is what we talk about. Money is in abundance. Money is energy. So how do you tap into your personal energy source to have abundance and wealth? I think that's really what we need to be looking at is how do you find your space, your purpose, and then how do you translate that into the energy that you need to bring in income? Instead of focusing on what's going to happen with AI, baby, jump on the bandwagon. Let's go because it's here. It's not going away. The horse is out of the gate. So you either embrace it and learn to work with it, or you're going to be behind. And then you're really going to not have an opportunity to get a job. So it's scary. There's a lot of negative sides to this, but there's a lot of positive sides. You know, we can, as solopreneurs, we can run a business much more easily by ourselves because of the technology. So, we love to hate things. They love to make fear and cause us to be afraid of things. Fear sells, scarcity sells, right? Because we want to buy something, we want to do something. Instead of just saying, okay, well, and then also, is AI really that new? We've been using AI for a long time. They just weren't scaring us about it. They were bringing it in, and getting us used to wanting it, used to us using it. And then all of a sudden, now it's a crisis. I think that's programming, honey. Last night in my class, so I teach general psychology. In my class, we're talking about motivation, emotions, and social psychology. And we were talking about persuasion. How much of this AI fear is persuasion? How much of the AI fear is about them wanting us to be worried and not embrace the change and not make it a positive? How much of it is us being programmed to think that it's against us instead of for us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to unpack a couple of different themes that you brought up. So I want to start with Just in terms of the job situation and what I'm observing, but then I want to unpack a couple of other things. Right now, if you look at data, so I'm just going to go back to numbers, right? I don't know if you heard, but the technology sector, which is called software as a service, they lost $1 trillion in market cap because Claude, so Anthropic, they release Claude Code, right? But not Claude Code, it's Claude Cowork, where it essentially starts to act like agentic AI. So there are these little agents that can do marketing, that can do, all the different things that software as a service would do. So like legal software, marketing software, CRM software, right? And so this sector has been struggling tremendously and bleeding market capitalization day after day, week after week. Why? Because they feel that this Claude Code or Cowork can replace all of these other softwares that had been built with more outdated, a lot more expensive technology. And what I'm observing is that companies companies are still incredibly productive. They're still producing lots and lots of value into the world, right? So like Coca-Cola continues to do Coke, like whatever, water and right? So companies are still productive and producing. I think that what's happening from a job perspective, though, is that we're in this gray zone, right? We're in the zone of unknown and uncertainty. Because while we
Mhm.
know that AI is going to bring about lots and lots of efficiencies, we don't know what that looks like. What efficiencies, what jobs can be replicated, what jobs can you take and amplify, right? By embedding AI into your processes. So that's the observation I have. And while like, at least my scope, my projects are growing, I'm not hiring. Like 2 years ago, I would have hired people to help me with this. Right now, like we're kind of like sitting and trying to figure out, like, could we do this with AI? Do I need more humans? If I do need more humans, how do I leverage those humans and what types of skill sets do I need? And what I'm observing is that it's not that AI is going to replace humans. It's going to replace humans who know how to leverage AI. Okay. And so that skill set, leaning into learning how to amplify your humanness, your creativity, your ideas, that entrepreneurial spirit that you talked about, I think is going to set you apart in any job market, and it's going to set you apart as an entrepreneur. I want to share a very personal story with you where I started my Wealthy and Unstoppable community about a year ago. And every single woman has come to me with the challenge of paying off her debt, right? Because that is
Mhm.
one of the biggest pillars that we struggle with as a society, right? We rack up a lot of debt. And then we don't really know how to optimize for paying off that debt, right? And so it feels like this mountain that is absolutely insurmountable. And so, what a lot of women were doing was coming to me for personal consultations with all of their, like, I have this car loan, then I have a credit card at 0% APR, but this credit card is expiring in 6 months up. Like, so many different data sets and pieces of information that you have to account for in order for you to come up with a truly optimal plan to pay off the debt as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible, meaning you're not paying for interest, right? And so what would I do? I would be like, okay, well, there's the snowball method, there's the avalanche method, there's the this, there's the that. Let's run some spreadsheets. I mean, and Nikki, hours upon hours sitting and consulting these women on how to do this. So ever since I started playing with AI, about like good 9 months, I was like, I bet you I could create a tool that could figure out how to optimize debt 1,000 times better and faster than I can. So I took the different scenarios and I started plugging it into ChatGPT. And I was like, how do we optimize it? How do you think about that? And I needed to direct and guide AI. on the rules of how this tool needs to work for me, right? Because for example, it was missing some components like, oh, you're continuing to make your minimum monthly payments on things, right? So long story short, it created a plan that literally would shave off 15 months, 18 months, 24 months from repayment plans that my brain was able to come up with. And then I said, okay, this is pretty awesome. How do I create a tool that everyone could use, right? And AI taught me step by step how to create a custom GPT that I could then code, right? Create, and now take and start sharing out with the world. And I launched it in our community and I've already had women buy it and reach out to me and say, oh my God, this just showed me how to shave off 24 months. This just showed me how to shave off 18 months, right? That's the power of your ingenuity, your creativity,
Yes,
your
yes,
curiosity as a human, and leaning
yes.
into the best parts of AI, which is like optimizing, creating those efficiencies. And the two, one plus one is creating 11 here, you know? So, anyways, I just wanted to share this story with you.
Well, but I think it's a valid story, Vicky, right? First of all, I can't wait to use it myself. But the other thing is, let's boil back to how much of the AI layoff truly just about AI? How
Mhm,
much of it is also about a company wanting to cut its rosters anyway, because a lot of these companies value profit over people. So
mhm,
if we work for the mindset of people over profit, right? You still want to make a profit, obviously you're in business. But if organizations, CEOs and companies really wanted to keep their people employed, they could use the AI technology to make that happen.
mm,
They could make efficiencies within the organizations. I'm not going to name names of companies I worked at, but I worked at some companies where there's a lot of things that are not efficient. There's a lot
mhm.
of things that could be done better and differently. And if you put in some good systems that you use AI, you could expand your reach in other areas. But the problem is, people aren't looking outside the box. They're so stuck of being in a routine, a rut. Um, and guess what? Guy's coming for you, people. So if you're not gonna get efficient, you're gonna be out of business. So you either embrace it and keep your people and learn AI with your people to make your company more solid. Because how much more profit could you make if you were running tight and lean, right?
Mhm,
But you don't have to get
mhm.
rid of your goal. So it's choice, right? There's a whole thing going on. And I was talking to my students like there used to be social norms, social scripts, and social things in place. All that's going away because everything's changing, everything's in flux, right?
Mm.
And if we value people, how do we utilize this amazing technology to make it a win-win for everybody?
Yeah.
I am looking forward to your debt buster because I don't have a ton of debt right now, but I also can't wait till you come up with an AI tool to help me learn to invest. That's the one I need, right? And that's the beauty. But the thing is, though, Vicky, and I hate to say this, so many people have been conditioned to not be a thinker anymore.
Mm.
They've been conditioned to come in, do a job, and oh, God forbid you question it. If you're like me and you question stuff, you get in trouble because they don't want you always in corporate America to be the person thinking outside the box unless you're being paid to. But there's only so far they want you to think outside that box because they don't always want the changes that come with thinking outside the box.
Yeah. I want to double down on this. So, you bring up such an important point about the thinking outside of the box and the role that AI is actually playing in that. So, you know,
Yep.
I have primarily worked at technology companies. I've worked in digital. I've worked in kind of like more of the innovative space my entire career. So there you get rewarded for outside of the box thinking. So that's just been my experience. Okay. So, but I know that there are 1,000 other jobs that, like, for example, my admin, she doesn't get paid to think outside of the box. She gets paid to do a certain things. Schedule the meeting a certain way with these people. I tell her exactly, and I have, precise vision for exactly when I want that meeting to be, how many people I want it, da, da, da. Like very, very specific. And she doesn't get paid to think outside of the box. So I totally agree with you. And there are like lots and lots of roles like that. I've worked in innovation and digital my whole life. But here's what's happening. So I have somebody on my team, and this individual has decided that they were going to lean into AI for everything. So every time I ask this person to do anything, this person just leans on AI and has AI do it. And I'm telling you, Nikki, it is now starting to get to a point where I am so frustrated because there is no creativity, there's no ingenuity, there's this like garbage in, garbage out coming out. And that's like that, I
That's
think
true.
is horrible because that humanness, that creativity, the thing that makes you unique and special has just completely disappeared from this individual. I do not need a robot. I can go plug this into AI myself. I need your experience, your unique skill sets and talents, which is what you were hired for,
Mm-hmm.
right? To be reflected in AI, right? AI cannot come up with new creative. Yeah, go ahead. I want to hear your, because I am
Well,
really struggling with this right now as a manager.
well, first of all, you have to have a crucial conversation with her or
Yes,
him, whichever. And you have to say, we hired you for this skill set.
right.
And I am happy on one hand that you're embracing AI, but I'm also dissatisfied with your output because you've lost you.
Yeah.
So me and Chat GPT have fights. I actually cuss at him. I actually cuss at him like, what in the bleep are you doing? What are you fucking doing? Like, why did you go down that road? Did I give you permission? No, I gave you set rules. So AI is amazing, but you still have to supervise it. It's like a child, right?
Yeah.
You have to, my friend calls it your thinking partner. I've heard a few people call it your thinking partner. AI is not to the point where you should let it do everything for you. And even if it does get to that point, you still need the human element. You still need you in it, right? So the system that you've developed to help us um, pay down money on our bills, Vicky's still in there,
Yes.
right? Because you have a heart for service. What I'm building for my day job, I just did a whole bunch of surveys, and I'm working on this big major multi-million-dollar grant, and we were surveying buckets of people for information. So the first iteration, I used AI to build a tracking system. But every time I worked with the tracking system, I enhanced it, but I used the skills from AI. So I think that as managers, as employers, we need to think about how do we want to use AI and how do we expect our employees to work with it, and then how do we then take that extra time that we could possibly generate from that, and how do we then go into another part of our business to make that a stronger part of our business? Now eventually, are people still going to lose their jobs? Yes, but does that free somebody else up to do something differently that they really want to do anyway?
Hmm.
So you and I talk about, is it happening to you or for you? And I
Hmm.
sometimes think shit happens to you,
Hmm.
know, but I think a lot of times things happen for you because you didn't listen. Like the job that I lost, that I didn't like the way I lost, that was kind of a surprise. I knew I needed to leave.
Hmm.
Well, God, the universe, the jerky manager I had, whatever, kicked me out the door. And as I was telling my students last night, had I not lost that job and had I kept growing in my corporate career, which I was very good, I mean, I was known statewide, nationwide. If I became executive director, vice president, higher level position, would I have quit that job to go rescue my father? Probably not. So, because the universe, God, whoever, heard me saying I'm not satisfied with this job and also knew what was going on with my dad, all of a sudden my future was freed. I was able to travel to New Jersey and be there months on end. I had a free place to stay. Like everything lined up, but what didn't line up is my ego. And I think that's the biggest issue here is people are so much identifying with a title and a position at a corporation that they've lost who they are as an individual. So with this AI and all these other changes, we need to find out who we are, what's important to us intrinsically and extrinsically, right? Because there's both, and yeah, be ready. Be ready to lose your job, whether it's AI or not. Maybe you just have a bad manager. Maybe you just have a whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe you just really need to change your job anyway, and you just aren't doing it because you have the golden handcuffs and you want the security of having a job with a paycheck, but you're miserable and your health is going to shit because you're unhappy. Like, so, you know, I think that we can be stuck all day long and blaming somebody else, AI, whatever, or we can take it and we can run with it. You know, I personally am going to learn more about AI because I have a lot to do. Like, you know, you and I started a podcast on a whim because we like talking to each other. But I'm going to maximize me through using AI so I can help more people. For me, it's not about ego. For me, it's not about getting rich. Now, do I want more money in my life? Of course. But I don't need to be an influencer and every world know me. But I do want to continue helping people and I want to use this tool. So I want to pose the question to people, what is your resistance? What is your resistance to AI learning it? What is your resistance to losing your job? If it's not the right fit for you, why are you still there? If it is the right fit for you, then how do you make yourself so valuable that they're not going to get rid of you? Or if they get rid of you, that you have such great experience that you can leverage yourself somewhere else. Instead of working from fear, work from abundance, work from this is who I am, what I have to offer. Like I was telling my students last night that when I got laid off from that first job, I was still involved in this very big and very political project. And the commissioner that I was working with invited me to speak publicly. And I looked at the agenda and I was very upset because my name wasn't on it. But then realized, because of a friend, that I'm the one who built this thing. And I was telling my kids that I took my name off my resume and I put it through a different thing so it looked different than my normal resume. And then I read my resume back to myself and I was like, damn, who's that person? It's me. We forget who we are because we get mistreated, we get stuck in a rut, we forget all the cool things that we've done, all the value we've brought companies. And, you know, maybe you need to start taking a record of who you are and what you've accomplished and see how you can take that information, put it into Chat GPT or put it into Gemini or put it into Claude or whatever his name is and reinvent yourself with something that you really love, something that you're really good at. Because guess what? We only stick ourselves. That's why we started. You want to unstuck, get you unstuck. Right. Well, first of all, you have to embrace something new to become unstuck. And so, you know, hey, yeah, you know, my contract with my current position is going to be gone in a few months. Guess what? I don't care. Something else is going to come along because I believe something else is going to come along. It's going to come along.
Right.
Right.
Right. And let's talk about like the age, you know, they say that AI is the age of abundance, right? And I'll tell you, it can be. And the reason that they say that this is going to be the age of abundance is because AI is going to create so much efficiency that we are actually going to start to see deflation, meaning that the cost of things are going to go down because of the efficiencies that AI is going to introduce. So things supposedly are in the next 5 to 10 years are supposed to get cheaper, right? It's going to be cheaper labor, cheaper to produce. So prices should go down. That's number one. That's what they say is the age of abundance. Number two is they're saying that we're going to have more self-made multimillionaires and billionaires because of AI than ever in the history of humanity. Why? Because you will have one person billion-dollar companies, and I'll share with you a story. So there's this company that was started by one guy. It was called Claw Code, and it's open source AI. It's basically like agentic. And this guy, one person, created a company with all of these, a product that is able to create all of these other agents, AI agents. And now people are quitting their jobs, especially young people, in droves, quitting their jobs, buying Mac Minis, and starting up little small companies with all of these new agents. There's so much entrepreneurship for the people who are really embracing and leaning into this than ever before. And I really love that. And if let's say let's get practical here, Nikki, right? So let's pretend you are stuck. Let's pretend you are middle-aged and you are resisting. Maybe you're even young and you're resisting AI, right? You don't want to lean into it. You are afraid of it and you are feeling paralyzed from the fear that, oh my God, what if I lose my job from AI? Oh my God, it's so complicated. I could never learn it. Or I don't want to learn it. It doesn't excite me. What is somebody like that who is in that mindset and in that energy? What do they need to do? What do they need to embrace in order to get unstuck?
Well, I mean, if they're unwilling to do it, the only way they're going to embrace it is if they're forced to use it
Hmm.
by losing their job,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's the unfortunate part. Whether you, you whether AI turns you on or not, like I have on my t-shirt that says find your magic, right? AI
Yeah.
technology is magic to me. When I can't do something, I call the, IT people and I'm like, hey, magician, I call them magicians. It's magical to me, right? Um, this is one area you can't be stuck in. If you don't want to embrace technology changing, you're going to not have a job. There's no way around it, Nikki. It's not a choice,
Or
unfortunately, right?
can I
Because
just jump in? Can I jump in here for a second? It's not that
yeah,
you're not going to have a job, but the way that you earn money is then going to need to look very different, meaning that you're going to need to go completely on in the opposite direction of AI and technology. So, for example, do you want to become a tour guide?
you'd have to be a homesteader, or
Uh,
you'd have to be somebody that doesn't. But even people who work from home use some form of technology to sell their product
right, right.
or
So
buy their products.
exactly. So I'm just saying, like, you may not need to, like, you're going to need to either do something in nature, you could do ecotourism, something like that. Like, you're going to have to go in the complete opposite because there's no gray zone in between anymore, right? Like, so go ahead, Nikki. I just wanted to kind of like double down on that because, like, okay, you don't want to embrace technology, then you got to go like completely unplugged. So, because there's going to be
Okay,
no
but
between anymore.
where I'm from in the Northeast, you're from the Northeast as well.
Yeah.
Right down the street from where I grew up, we're Amish.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Those Amish people use technology when they're making their money in the farm stand. They may not use technology in their houses, but in order to get their Visa MasterCard payment, trust and believe, they're using the technology, right? So even them, they've had to adapt because they need revenue, right? They farm the land, they do all this stuff. They're amazing. Their products are amazing, but they're in a storefront. People who walk into the storefront don't always use cash. So they had to adapt. So you may not have to be the slickest person with AI. Maybe you're older, 60s, 70s, 80s, and you're really not interested in becoming, a guru. But there's still some levels of AI that you have to embrace. Like my mom makes me nuts with her dang tablet. She makes me crazy, but she at least is trying to figure stuff out, right? So maybe that's part of what this needs to be, that we help people in society become less afraid of it. Because I think most of the time people's resistance is about fear, not about actually not wanting to. I think people are embarrassed that they don't understand because maybe they had a job that didn't use a lot of technology. And plus, the technology is moving so fast and changing so fast that unless you're on top of it, even people that work in IT can't know everything. When I call, they're like, oh, I don't know, let's look it up together, right? So I think we have to build a space for people who are afraid to think outside the box with technology. And then for those of us who are willing to try stuff, we have to be more compassionate towards those who aren't and maybe show them some tips and tricks so that they can get bit by the bug. Because when we were talking to Matt, and I was telling him about the project that I'm currently working on, he's like, oh, girl, you can use AI and be done with that in 2 minutes. Not 2 minutes, but the point in fact is that until he plugged that seed in my brain to use that engine to make things smooth me, I would have plugged along doing it the hard way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But now I'm like, okay, how do I do this? And now I argue with chat. And then when he does something I don't like, I cuss at him and I tell him, what are you doing? I knew you would like that. I'm sorry. It's just, to me, it's strange. It's like human beings resist, but the only thing that's consistent in life is change.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I think the big issue is we have to help people not be afraid.
Yes.
And I think all this fear mongering, which they do in the media on purpose, I think that's also making it harder for people to embrace because there's a level of resentment because they're thinking that it is going to take my job. Well, it might take your job, but can you get a better one?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, I don't know. I'm a make lemonade out of lemons kind of chick. I've been through hell and back so much in my life that, I bounce back. Like today I have no makeup on. My office is a disaster. I don't care. Because why? I'm showing up for you because you're my friend, because we had something important to talk about. And I'm showing up for me because guess what? I want to help people. I want people to think differently or challenge their thinking so that they can have a better quality life. Not, necessarily about AI, but just where they stuck. I have, lots of stuff going on, and as we talk, it'll start coming out. But I could have chose not to do this with you today because I don't feel well. I feel like someone's cat dragged in. But I'm passionate about showing up. I'm passionate about service, and if we can help take away some of this fear, you can talk about the numbers. Yeah, sure, this is what the market's showing, but how much of that is people actually retiring because of the age? Because we are in a place now, there's a lot of talent retiring. And we're not always replacing all that talent. Now, even if you go in a career in technical, you still have to have some level of AI savvy, right? But we're not shown the full picture in the news media. And I think hopefully with our channel, our podcast, we can start giving people some resources and some understanding that don't be afraid. Your fear is going to keep back your abundance. Your fear is going to limit your income potential. When I first...
Your fear will keep scarcity.
Yeah. When I was first told that I wasn't getting renewed with my job recently because they didn't get funding, I was pissed because they could have had money. But then I said, you know what? I don't like it. I love the people, I love the mission, but I don't like how they're operating. It makes me bananas. Good people, just I didn't like their system. So everybody's like, "What are you gonna do for a job?" I'm like, I'm not worried. And normally I would be worried. And lo and behold, an opportunity came to me. Somebody said, "Hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. Are you willing to do it?" And we negotiated, and I'm doing it, right? Well, guess what? We're getting ready to be at another end, and somebody else approached me. "Hey, are you interested in doing this?" Maybe. But if I have to go drive Uber, which I don't really want to do because I don't like driving and I don't like pain in the ass people, um, or if I have to go do Uber Eats or whatever. When I was younger, I would just decide to quit a job and go. Like I lived in Jersey, I'd come to Florida and party for the summer and hang out. I had a job. I would just come here and do it. I'd make it happen. So somehow we've lost that let's make it happen. And yes, understandably, getting jobs is often difficult, especially at higher levels, right? But how much money do we really need? Where can we cut back? Can we do? How do we invest so that flexibility, right? What are ways that we can monetize our lives in other ways, permanently or temporarily? So it's a mindset shift, right? Part of why we're doing this is stopping the stories. We have
Yeah.
stories in our head as the way things are supposed to go. So
Mm-hmm.
how do we change those stories? And see, I love my kids. I have a very small class this term, but I have one kid that always asks a lot of questions and he challenges me. And, we have to challenge our stories in our head.
Mm-hmm.
Previous times I was worried about losing a job. Now I don't give a damn. I'm glad I lost that job.
Right.
I miss my friends and I talk to them all the time. And I still work for the college because I love the college. That particular role, that particular situation wasn't good for me. The institution itself is great. The people there are great. That was just not where I was supposed to be because I probably was supposed to be an entrepreneur many, many, many years ago. So it
Mm-hmm.
worked out for my benefit. And I think even though when we are going through something negative, um, it sucks. I'm going to say it. Whether you're losing a job, losing a spouse, somebody passed away, you have an illness. When you're in the middle of it, it always sucks. But if you choose, and it's a choice, if you choose after you get through the pain to look for the lesson, to look for the bright spot in that situation, then you don't dwell in the negative. Because I had a student last night challenging me on that. And I said, look, I choose to be, lemonade over, sour grapes. So whether, it happened for me or to me or whatever, I choose to look at the positive parts and grow from them and avoid the negative parts in the future. So a lot of our mindset is choice.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody, Vicky, who hasn't had trouble. I don't know anybody who hasn't had their heart broken. I don't know anybody who hasn't worried about something.
Yeah. So,
It's the
I'm
problem
gonna,
is we want to feel sorry for ourselves.
yeah, yeah. So if I'm gonna summarize some of the tips that you're giving, if you're feeling stuck, is, recognize that this stuckness is an energy of fear. You're
Yep.
afraid of something. So what are you afraid of? Right? And follow that through line, right? What am I afraid of? Okay, I'm afraid of losing my job. Okay, so then what? What am I afraid of then? I'm afraid that I won't be able to pay my bills. Okay, so what are you afraid of then, right? And just really unpeel those layers of the onion as you look at the fear. The second thing that I heard you talk about is that it's a choice, right? How we live, what we learn, what we invest into ourselves, those are all choices that
Mm-hmm.
we get to make. We're privileged to make, right? So, what are
Mm-hmm.
you choosing? What are you investing into? Are you investing into building up your skills or are you investing into the fear mongering, right?
Yep.
So, what are you investing into as choices? And number three, you talked about this victim mindset, right? Is it happening to me or is it happening for me and through me, right? So is life happening to me and am I just going to allow them to come and lay me off? Or am I going to get out of the victim mindset and say, hey, maybe this is happening for me? What else am I really passionate about? What else could I be doing? Should I be doing? What could I be learning? How might I live my life differently? Right? And instead of being in an energy of victim, you start to being you transition into an energy of somebody that truly owns their life, right? To live it truly
Mhm.
fulfilled. So with that, I'm going to close us out. What a gorgeous conversation. I really loved
Yeah.
your insights and input. I love this combination that you bring in of like the emotional, the spiritual, the psychological, right? And of course, I'm always there with the numbers and the data. So, and the energy. So, gorgeous conversation. I hope that each of you has found it really, really helpful. But, we are a community. Comment and
Mhm.
share. What are you truly afraid of? How have you
Yeah.
been either resisting or embracing AI? Right? Let's use this as an opportunity to start a conversation and continue a conversation that is so incredibly important because I genuinely believe that we can
Mhm.
all learn from each other. So,
Oh,
comment.
yes.
What are you taking away? What are you afraid of? What are you willing to do differently going forward? And if you love our conversations, then make sure to comment, like, and share it with people in your life that could benefit from this as well.
And
Nikki,
I
close.
want to,
Yeah.
sorry, and I just want to close on one thing. So obviously, if you're watching this, you're on most likely YouTube. YouTube University is amazing. I love YouTube. It just I'm on it all the time because I'm a very curious personality. So as passionate I am about mindset and self love and all the stuff that we were talking about today, you see my passion, you can see my excitement, right? There are people who are that much in love with AI. Go on YouTube. If you're afraid of AI, go watch somebody who loves it and let them teach you a skill. Start small. And guess what? You may never love it because maybe that's not. But if you take away the fear of what it is, what it actually is, because sometimes not really knowing what it is, and we have all these ideas in our head. I can go on a whole tangent about that too. There's a great TED talk I watched yesterday about that. The thing is, if you let the unknown scare you and you're afraid of that, like if you're commenting that I'm afraid of the unknown, like Nikki said down in the comments, maybe Google what's unknown to you and make it known and then make a decision. Are you really afraid or are you just lazy? Or are you just too old to be bothered? Or whatever your situation is, no judgment here, right? Because you don't have to like it. You don't have to use it, but there's consequences either way, right? So, Vicki, I love doing these conversations with you. I look forward to our next topic. I look forward to getting to our audience because we want to be relevant to people. Yeah, we like talking to each other, but as we continue these conversations, because we're both researchers. She's the money numbers person, but I'm the head person. I love to research stuff. Love to learn more about people and psychology and behavior. So anyway, thank you everyone. Have an amazing day and we'll see
Yes.
you soon.
Yes. On to our next episode. Bye.